Hey everyone, I'm Ben.
I'm Rob.
Welcome back to One Piece versus 4K, the podcast where we compare One Piece 4Kids anime to the Funimation dub, sometimes sub, and throw in some comparisons to the manga. We are back today for episode 4. And yeah, it was a pretty eventful episode. But before we get into that, what's been going on with you, Rom?
Just kind of just continuing to kind of kind of get by and stuff. I mean, I'm still kind of going back. I'm still kind of going back and forth from like my condo to my parents' place and stuff. But like, besides that, it's been all right. Just been cooking a little more and yeah. I mean, nothing too much. I do have like a doctor's appointment this week, so I don't know how that's gonna work because like it's the first time I'm going to a hospital since everything happened.
Oh yeah, I had a couple doctor's appointments. I canceled them. I was too terrified.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah, but have you had a dentist appointment come up yet?
No, I actually need to call my dentist because like I'm using like a prescription toothpaste and
Oh,
I think I'm running pretty low on it. And so like I think I need to like ask them because like the dentist office, they're the ones who gave me the toothpaste. So I gotta see like do I have to keep doing it or yeah, I just gotta ask them like if I still have to keep doing it, can I get like another tube or where do I have to go to get another tube?
gotcha.
So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I've
But
been doing absolutely nothing. Same thing as last week, just cooking a ton. I think I even cooked more this week because we had a bunch of food uh, that was about to expire, so we had to cook it all. I had to actually like write it on a calendar what we were going to eat each day for like the next 4 days.
oh,
So
nice.
yeah,
So wait, are you guys like cooking? Are you guys cooking each day or do you just cook for like a number of days?
no, cook each day. It'd
Okay,
be
okay,
way
okay,
too
okay,
hard
okay.
to cook for a number of days.
Yeah.
I mean, we,
I mean,
we only have so many pots and stuff. We'd have to clean it out each time. But
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, like there are people who meal prep and stuff, so I was just wondering if it was one of those kind of things.
no, sorry if you guys, if anyone listening meal preps, but you're insane. Uh, I couldn't do that. But yeah, I mean, I guess one great meal that we had made is I was missing Moe's, so we had decided to make our own burritos, and they turned out pretty good.
Dude, oh, nice, nice. Man, I haven't had Moe's in years now.
Yeah, I used to
But
go every day with a friend at or once a week with a friend at work, so I was
oh,
really
okay,
missing
okay,
it.
okay, okay.
But
Yeah, kind of same here. Like back at not my old job, but the job before that. Yeah, there was like a Moe's like right across the street from our office, and like we would go on Moe's Mondays or something.
oh yeah,
Like right after an Atlanta United game, they would have like for how many ever goals they scored, it would be that many dollars off. And then soccer games are usually like a couple of goals, so it was like maybe $2-3, and we'd go there and we'd get like a we'd also have to have the Moe's app, so it was like something that we just did in the office. But yeah, I haven't really gone to Moe's since then, since I left that job. So it's been a couple of years.
yeah. The nice thing about the burritos is we actually had enough to make like 8 burritos, I think. The
Oh,
burritos we made
nice,
were really small too, so we had some for lunch the next day. So
nice. What'd you guys put in the burritos?
chicken, rice, corn, black beans, and then some salsa.
Ah, okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, it was actually easy to cook it all. Uh, yeah, so it turned out good.
Yeah, like what I'm just seeing is that a lot of stuff is just like a lot of the cooking is just like stir frying stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah, I know that. And I only have like I have like one favorite I guess stir fry pot, so I'm constantly washing it over and over.
Yeah, like So like the one thing I think I want to do before I like so I looked up like how to make like a chocolate souffle and stuff, and it doesn't look too hard. At least based on the video, I guess like once I actually start doing it, it'll probably be like I'll probably get nervous and stuff. But before I do that, I want to try to make like an egg omelet souffle, which actually isn't as hard as I thought it would be. It's actually fairly easy, so I want to try that sometime soon.
Do you like muffins?
Muffins are all right.
Oh yeah, we've been making muffins too. They're pretty simple to make, but
Okay, okay, cool.
yeah. So that's been it. My week. I barely even played any video games this week. I played Animal Crossing a couple times. I played some game called Monster Hunter for a little bit, and yeah, that's about it. I was just tired of doing anything, to be honest. I actually just sat around and watched my wife Laura play that Spider-Man game. She ended up beating it in like
Oh
4 days.
yeah. Yeah. The Spider-Man game is like it feels long, but it also feels like very short too.
I guess you guys both just got really hooked on it. It seemed really long to me, but yeah, I was actually really shocked that you got to play as characters other than Spider-Man. That kind of shocked me.
Oh, okay. I was like for a second I was trying to think like what do you mean
Yeah, you get to control
characters?
Miles
Yeah.
and MJ for a period of time.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
I was like
interesting.
yeah. Yeah, I was trying to see like what are you talking about? But yeah.
I mean, it wasn't a huge part. It was just surprising that they did that.
Yeah. I feel you. Um, are you guys thinking about going to like the stores? Like I think like now a lot more stuff is open in Georgia now. Are you
No,
guys
dude,
thinking about
hell
like
no.
going?
I'm not going out for a
No.
long ass time. I'm too
Did
scared.
so wait, is your company like did they is it like work from home for the end of the year or is it like just a couple of months or
Uh, they said whenever we feel safe to come back. Uh, but apparently they haven't opened up the office yet because we have like a huge open floor that's just totally dangerous.
yeah.
Um,
Uh
and they said only
dude
come
like
back if it's necessary right now, and then that when you do come back, you're gonna have to sign a waiver, and then like everyone's gonna have to wear a mask. It's just not even worth it at this point.
yeah, yeah, I mean that actually kind of makes sense. Uh, like I remember the open floor plan over there, but like so at my last job, the there was like we had two floors. One floor is kind of where I worked. There's like a bunch of salespeople, like product development and everything, and then the other floor is like all the professional services or I think customer service reps and everything. uh at my last job like dude that place was packed like it was people were literally elbow to elbow so I was like there's no way they're gonna allow them to get back in the office because it's like way too packed and that's what I imagine the big trade floor is right now too so yeah I know Twitter said there people are just gonna or at least like they put out a release saying Twitter employees are gonna be working from home forever or something I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, I saw that they can pretty much work from home forever if they want. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what they said. You think you think the job that you had before your last job that was stuck in the 1980s is forcing everyone to go back?
No. The that job, like they're actually yeah, they're actually taking pretty good precautions of it. I mean, like the floor, like where we worked, it wasn't as cramped or packed as it was where you and I worked at one point.
Gotcha.
Like yeah, like the basically the job I had right after, which is the last job that I had. Yeah, they had like a lot more space. My last job, it was more of the vibe I had from the job we worked at. This job, I don't know because Like I think since I joined, I've just been kind of working from home. So
Yeah, that
yeah,
is a very bizarre thing.
yeah,
I couldn't
yeah.
imagine it.
Yeah, and like I don't know if we're gonna go back into the office pretty soon, but it's like we're able to work from home right now, so it's been all right. But yeah, I think if we do go back, it'll probably be. I think it has to be sometime in June now. I mean, it's already May 18th,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's like you know, so it'll be a while.
All right, I guess we should probably get into this episode here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So my episode 4, I know this has a totally different name because I was
Hmm.
comparing the episode names. My episode 4 is called Passing of the Hat.
Mm.
And yours was called what? Think I think I can find
Luffy's
it.
past. Oh yeah, no, I
Okay.
have it right in front of me. It's Luffy's past. Enter red-haired Shanks.
Yep. Interesting,
Yeah.
huh? Different title.
I mean,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I could see why, based on this episode, why it's a little different. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I actually like the name for the Four Kids dub in this one. I don't know. I don't know. It sounds like a turn of phrase. Something I'm probably
yeah,
missing in that name. Passing of the hat.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. It's a nice name for it. Yeah.
so yeah, it starts off with some pirates. They're in a ship. They're looking at some treasure, and we find out that those pirates are part of the Hardys. And you see the redhead girl. Her boat appears. She asks them to, um, she basically beckons to them, and she says, "Oh, you can come and open up my treasure chest." Um, and all of a sudden they open up the chest and some springed like panda thing like pops out, and while it just like I guess it just like destroys the ship or whatever, and while that's happening she jumps aboard their ship and just steals it and then sails off. um, Next scene, it cuts to Luffy and Zolo floating along, and all of a sudden Luffy's hat just blows off by the wind, and he says he has to get it because it's important. Um, then it it looks like you see him almost like grab it, and as he's grabbing it, it cuts to Luffy as a kid, and then you see the original owner of the hat in the bar. They're both sitting next to each other. Um, then all of a sudden, some kind of mountain men burst in and ask for a drink. The lady at the bar says there's none left, and that all of the guy who has the hat, his crew, his name is Captain Shanks. That they've already ordered all the drinks, and they only have there's not anything left. Captain Shanks says, "Oh well, there's actually one bottle left," and he hands it to the man, and the guy is pissed, saying, "We need a lot more bottles than this." He just breaks it on the ground, and he just storms out and leaves. And then all of a sudden, the next scene, you think Captain Shanks is gonna be pissed about what happened, and you see him just laugh and say, "Well, at least some of it got in my mouth." Luffy then is pissed and says he can't believe he didn't stand up for himself. Shank tells him to cool it, just relax, and just enjoy some food. So Luffy grabs some purple fruit out of Shank's chest that's kind of like sitting on the bar's table, and he eats it. And all of a sudden, he turns into the Rubber Man, as we know him today. And then, according to Shanks, he says, try to spit that out, throw it up. You have to get rid of it. You will never be able to swim again for the rest of your life. Um, and then as all that's happening, Luffy it basically cuts to the next scene, and Luffy is talking with the mountain guy, and the mountain bandit man is chastising Luffy. Luffy warns him to apologize to Shank. Uh, the lady at the bar runs to go get the mayor at around the same time, and the mayor shows up and begs that mountain man guy to leave him alone, and he says he'll do anything. He'll even pay him money. The guy says, "No way is he going to leave him alone." After Luffy's smart talking him, and then as he's saying that, Captain Shanks shows up. The bandit warns him that his men will shoot him with a gun. Um, they'll shoot Captain Shanks with a gun, but the gun that he says that he's going to shoot them with has a cork in it, so it's like a toy gun. Shanks
Okay.
says, those guns don't fire at close range. And then as he's saying that, another one of Shanks' crew member, like this bigger guy, uh, shoots him with a gun. And the gun just looks like a normal pirate type gun. But I guess it's because it's supposed to be like the cap had popped out or whatever. And then Shanks says, he explicitly says when he wakes up to tell him that it was a cap gun.
Okay.
And then Shanks says he doesn't care, what goes on, and if anyone, is picking on him or anything, he's just going to shrug it off. But he takes, he takes big issue with them, you know, messing with a mate of his. And the pirates take all of the mountain men, take on all of the rest of the mountain man dudes, and they defeat them as the bandit guy storms off, or he uses a smoke bomb and disappears with Luffy. And the next scene, we see them at sea. The bandit says, they're arguing, and the bandit says, um, "I'm just gonna throw you in the sea." And he throws Luffy in the sea, and Luffy's struggling to swim. All of a sudden, some huge, like big fish serpent type thing shows up. As the bandit in the boat yells, "What in the name of Nemo is that?" And so as that's happening, Shanks shows up and tells the serpent to leave. Um, then it just cuts to the next scene, and we see Shanks with Luffy in his arm. He saved him, but we notice that the other arm is missing. Shanks. Then the next scene, it cuts to the next scene, and we see that Shanks is leaving to go, I guess, on his next mission with his crew. And Luffy expresses one day he'll be better than him. Shanks says, "Wow, you really are." He's impressed that he's saying that, and he says, "Well, if you will be better one day, take my hat and give it to me when you see me again." And then we see Luffy. Next thing it cuts to Back to the Future, and we see Luffy in the boat holding the hat. Zolo says that he better hold on tightly or it's going to fly out again. And that he's also mentions that he's starving, and they need to get some food. As he's saying that, a bird is flying up above. Luffy says he'll catch the bird. He springs up with his Gum Gum Rocket, I guess, move or whatever, and ends up getting stuck in the bird's beak. Then Zolo is, rowing the boat as fast as he can to save Luffy. And as he's doing that, we see the other pirates from the very beginning of the episode drifting in the water, and they ask if they can come aboard. Zolo says, "Sure, I don't care, but I'm not stopping." They successfully get on board and say they are pirates of Buggy. They're part of Buggy's crew. Um, then the next scene, it cuts to the next scene. We see that they were approaching him, that they were going to attack him, but then it just cuts to the next scene and we see that they're beat up on the boat, like tied up, and then Zolo says, "Great, look what you've done. We've lost him." And then Buggy's squad remarks that the redhead had stolen the ship and that Buggy is going to be pissed, and he had also eaten a cursed fruit. We then see the redhead in, I guess, the town where Buggy is, running away with the map of the Grand Line, as Buggy's shadow is telling the his crew to shoot down the bird in the sky. Luffy, so they do that, and then Luffy is seen falling down, and the redhead sees him as he's falling down, and then the episode just ends.
Okay, okay. And that one guy who got his head hit with that little cork, he's gonna have like a major headache, man.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And it was funny too, because like the pirates are all freaking out, like they can't believe what has happened. But then he follows up the scene saying when he wakes up, let him know that it was a cap gun. Like he's gonna need to be told that.
Okay, okay. Okay, so I'll kind of like so yeah, I guess like so I'll go with my episode. So now the episode name, I think yeah, as we kind of mentioned at the top, it's Luffy's past, enter Pirate Captain Shanks. Yeah, enter red-haired Shanks. Yeah, Luffy's past, enter red-haired Shanks. So in terms of like the manga chapters that this episode is based on, so this is pretty funny. This is chapter 1
Wow.
and chapter 8.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is actually so chapter 1 so I'll kind of like yeah, chapter 1, the name of the first chapter is called Romance Dawn. And the name of chapter 8, I'll get to in a little bit because I'll say it at the end of this recap. So yeah, so this episode, it's yeah similar to you. Like the episode starts with these three pirates. Like they're all like happy. They got all this treasure, and they're just like Captain Buggy is going to be happy that we got all this treasure and we won't have to face any of his buggy balls. And and then they spot this one little boat with the red-haired girl. I guess I think like we need to probably start calling her orange hair girl because Shanks has red hair and like
Well, at least we're
um
saying girl, but yeah,
yeah, true.
yeah,
Yeah,
it is the color difference.
yeah. And the other reason why is Shanks's pirate crew is named the Red-Haired Pirates.
Oh, I didn't pick that
Yeah.
up. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, they found this treasure. They see this girl kind of drifting out in a boat, and they like, pull up next to her, and then they're like, and then she's like, "Oh, hi, yeah, I'm like very thirsty. I'm shipwrecked. I'll give you all the treasure you want, all the jewels you want in my treasure chest right here." And they're like, "Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll help you. Just let us go look inside this treasure chest." And then they open it up, and then kind of similar to you, this panda thing kind of pops up. They're like, "What?" And they turn back, and then the girl, she ends up like stealing their ship, saying thanks. And then she kind of gives like a weather forecast where she's like, "Okay, I see dark clouds coming. The winds are going in a certain direction. There's going to be a storm, and then with the size of the ship you guys are going to be that you guys are on, it's probably going to capsize." And then pretty much every single weather thing that she says happens, and they capsize. And then she goes away, and the guys are like, "You bitch." And then yeah, she goes on. And yeah, so they actually yeah, like the dubbed and the sub, they both like actually use actual curse words. Uh, but yeah, so then yeah, so she gets a boat and kind of sails off, And then we kind of jump back to Zoro and Luffy, and then Zoro's like, "Hey, I'm starving," and then like I guess like during the conversation, Zoro's like, he kind of finds out that Luffy doesn't have any navigation skills, and then Luffy's like, and Zoro kind of tells Luffy, "Hey, you're gonna be the king of the pirates, but you don't have navigation skills." And then Luffy's like, "Hey, you're the great pirate hunter. What about you?" And then he's like, "Oh, I've never called myself the pirate hunter." He's like, he said he was looking for one specific pirate, and then he couldn't find his way back home, so he's just been kind of like bounty hunting just to kind of like survive. And then Luffy's like, "Okay, so you're just lost." And Zoro's like, "Hey, you don't have to put it that bluntly." And then yeah, Luffy's hat kind of drifts out, and then yeah, as like I guess Zoro was about to catch it, it goes into the flashback where this Shanks catches his own hat, and yeah, so then we actually switch to the bar, and yeah, we switch to the bar, and then Luffy's like, "Hey, Shanks, can I join you in your next voyage?" And then Shanks is like, "No, you're just a little kid. You might be a good swimmer, but you're just a little kid." And the other guys are like, "Yeah, the captain's just watching out for you and stuff." And then Shanks kind of gives him like a glass of juice, and Luffy's like all excited, drinks that glass of juice, and then Shanks is like, "See, you are a kid. No pirate would drink juice or something like that." And then Luffy's like, "Hey, that was dirty, or that was a cheap trick or whatever." He just kind of yells at him in a funny way. And then so they're just kind of having a good time. And then yeah, you see these mountain bandits come into the bar, and they're like, "Hey, we're mountain bandits, and we're not going to cause any chaos here. We just want to get some booze, or I guess like he says sake, and then he goes to the waitress. Yeah, waitress asks, "What do you guys want?" And they're like, "Yeah, we just want some sake." Like I think he said, I forget if he said 8 barrels or 10 barrels, but he said we just want that much, and then we'll go about our way. And then she's like, "Oh no, we're out of like sake." And then he's like, "I'm looking around on what are these pirates drinking? Are they drinking juice?" And then Shanks is like, "Sorry guys, I guess like our my crew just kind of ran this bar dry." And he says, "But you can have this one bottle. It's not opened yet." And as he said it, the mountain bandit guy just punches the bottle of sake, and it like splashes over Shanks, and it kind of falls down. And then Shanks is like, "Oh no, look what happened. The floor's all wet." And he's like, "Hey, Mak." So the girl's name is Makino, and he's like, "Hey, Makino, can I get a rug? I'll come clean this up." And then she's like, "You don't have to do that." And then as she's saying that, like, and she's coming towards Shanks to help him out, the mountain bandits just smash the other kind of things. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention was when Shanks offered him one bottle, the mountain bandit guy was like, "Hey, I have a 8 million berry bounty on my head, so one bottle is not even enough for a nightcap." So that's kind of how he was. So yeah, he smashes the rest. He's like, "Well, if you like cleaning so much, here's all that." And then he's like, and then he basically says, "Hey guys," he basically tells his other bandits, "Hey guys, let's get out of here. These guys are wimps." And they just kind of go away. And then one of Shanks's uh, crew member that basically like as soon as the mountain bandits go away, one of Shanks' crew members like, "He really got you there, Captain," and they all start kind of laughing and stuff. And then Luffy's like, "Hey, why are you guys all laughing? You guys should have fought them. You guys are men. You should have fought them. You guys aren't real pirates or men because you didn't like stand up for yourself." So then Shanks kind of tells him it's nothing. It's not a big deal. It's just he spilled some sake on me. That's all. It's not a big deal, Luffy. And then he's like, "No, it is a big deal. You guys didn't stand up for yourself." And then Luffy then, in like an angry fit, sits down. He spots a fruit. He starts eating it. Excuse me. He starts eating it, and then Shanks is like, "Oh, are you eating while you're angry, or are you eating your frustrations away, or something?" And he's like, Luffy's like, "Shut up!" And then Shanks notices that Luffy was eating like the devil fruit. He's like, "Luffy, are you eating what was in that small chest?" He's like, "Yeah." And then he's like, "That's the devil fruit." And then he's like, spit it out." And then he kind of like hangs him down as he tells him to spit it out. And then what you see is just Shanks. What you see is basically Luffy just kind of like his head just stretches down, and
Hmm.
he comes back up, and he's like, "What happened?" He's like, "That's a gum gum fruit. It made you into a rubber man." And then he's like, you won't ever be able to swim again." And Luffy's like, "What?" And Shanks is like, "You idiot."
I have
And
a
then it
quick
kind of
question.
gets, yeah,
So does he ever mention that some of the drink got in his mouth?
no, no,
Okay.
no,
I thought that was
no.
really
So
funny.
yeah, he just says that, yeah, it's spilled all over the floor, and he was like trying to like mop it up or something.
Gotcha.
Uh, yeah. So then, next thing we see is we see like the mountain bandits come into the shop, and then we see Makino kind of like running somewhere, and then she's like, "Hey, we have a problem. Mountain bandits got Luffy." And then like, yeah, she runs to the mayor, to kind of grab him. And then we see Luffy in with the mountain bandits. They're kind of just like beating up on him a little bit, and then the mayor's like, "Hey, please, like, hey, please forgive him, or let him go. We'll give you money. Just let him go." And then the mountain bandit guy, he's like, "Hey, old man, you know the way of the world and stuff. Unfortunately, this kid is gonna die because he made me think so." He talks about that, and as he says that, behind Makino we see Shanks, and Shanks is like, "We were wondering where everyone was when the bar was empty when we came in there." And then, he tells Luffy, "Hey, Luffy, I thought your punches were like a pistol." And Luffy's like, "Shut up." And then he kind of says, basically, like, then one of like the mountain bandit guy. His name is Higuma. I just remember that his name is Higuma.
Yeah,
Higuma
do they
basically
ever
tells,
mention it in the episode?
I think so. I think so. I have to like check back, but I
Got
think
it.
so.
Well,
Like,
yeah, I don't ever
um,
remember them mentioning his name, but they might have for a second. Someone might have called him that.
yeah, it's either that or it might be one of those things I just recalled with all the stuff that I did in the past with just kind of
Gotcha.
reading up on One Piece and stuff. Yeah, he basically says, "Hey, looks, what were you guys doing, cleaning up the whole city or something?" And then he's like, "We're mountain bandits. We're gonna beat up your pirates." And then one of the mountain bandits points a gun at Shanks, and Shanks is like, "Are you willing to put your life on it?" And then the guy's like, "What? What are you talking about?" And then Shanks looks at him and says, "Guns are not for pointing; they're for actions." And then the next thing we see is one of Shanks' crew members just shoot his gun at him.
Hmm.
And then yeah, so the guy, he shoots him and he kills him. Yeah. And then yeah, so then the mountain bandits are like, "Hey, these guys fight dirty," and then Shanks and his crew are like, "Fighting dirty? What do you think we are, Saints? We're pirates. We're criminals. We're not gonna fight uh, like clean. We don't follow rules or something." And then they said, "We only have a problem with Brad. We don't have any problems with you guys, but we're gonna kill you guys or whatever." So the mountain bandits start charging against Shanks and his crew, but one of the crew members is like, "Hey, Shanks, don't worry about it. I can handle all these guys by myself." And then he goes in, he beats all of them up, and then the Higuma, the mountain bandit, he's like, "Hey, he was the one who started it." And then he throws a bomb, a smoke screen, and then like he disappears. Shanks is like, "Oh shoot, I lost him." And then we cut to like basically Higuma and Luffy, the Higuma the mountain bandit and Luffy like in the middle of the ocean, or like middle of the sea, and he's like, "Hey, I'm in the sea now. They're not gonna expect a mountain bandit to be out in the waters." And he's like, "I have no use for you," and he throws Luffy into the sea. And the thing is, like, mountain bandits, or sorry, devil fruit users, they can't swim. So Luffy's kind of struggling in the water, and then you see this sea monster come in, and then it just like chomps on the Higama's boat and eats him and his boat all in one go. And then he sees Luffy, and then the monster sees Luffy, and then it's about to charge at him, and then it just chomps. And then next thing we see is Shank, and he glares at the sea monster and he says, "Leave," menacingly, and then the monster gets scared and leaves. And there is a little bit of that one scene where he scares off the monster is actually kind of like something that's very relevant to something we find out a lot later on. It's out of scope in terms of like for 4 kids. Like this is something we learn about like 400 episodes later or something.
Wow.
But yeah, so yeah, we see it this early, but it's not referenced for a long time. But so yeah, basically, we see that, and then Shanks is like, "Hey, Luffy, I'm in debt to you. You just kind of stood up for us." And then Luffy's like, "Yeah, sure, but Shanks, your arm." And then you see that like Shanks's arm is missing. And then we cut to basically Shanks and his crew are leaving, and then Luffy's like, "Hey, I'm not gonna ask you guys to take me with you guys anymore." He says, "I'm gonna be a pirate," and Shanks is like, "Hey, you're not gonna make it as a pirate." And then Luffy's like, "Yeah, I will." And then he's like, "I'll become a pirate and my crew, and I'll go find the One Piece, and I'll be king of the pirates." He basically says, I'll become a pirate. My crew will be better than your crew,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna go find the treasure. Go find all the biggest treasures, including the One Piece, and I'll become the king of the pirates." And then Shanks is like, "Well, okay then." And then he hands him his straw hat, saying, "This hat's very important to me. Bring it back to me once you've become a great pirate."
Mm.
And he puts it back on, and yeah, and then we kind of shift back to present with Luffy and Zoro, and Zoro's like, "Hey, hold on to that hat, don't like lose again or something, because I know it's important to you." And then he's like, "Yeah, thanks." And then Zoro's like, "I'm still hungry." They see a bird up, and Luffy's like, "Let's eat that. How are we gonna get that?" And he does a gum gum rocket, launches himself in the air. The bird hooks onto his head, and he's like, "Oh no!" And then Zoro's like, "You idiot!" And then he like starts rowing in the same direction as the bird. And as he's doing it, you see the guys that Nami just like. Okay, spoiler alert. You see the guy that the girl tricked, and they're like, "Hey, can you come save us?" And he's like, "I can't stop for you guys. Just grab on and just grab on if you can." And they do. And then they're like, "Hey, we're part of the buggy crew. Stop the ship. We're part of the buggy crew. We're gonna take over the ship." Zoro looks at them like, "Huh?" And then you see like that evil stare. The next scene, clearly he like beat him up, and he says, "Well, you guys like made me lose my friend. Just keep rowing straight that way." And then we cut to basically like Zoro kind of asks, "Who is this Buggy anyways?" And the guys say, "Oh, Buggy's the leader for our pirate crew, and he ate one of the devil fruits." And then you cut to Buggy, and then someone tells, "Hey, Captain Buggy, there's something in the sky, something odd in the sky." And he's like, "Shoot it down with the cannon." And then he shoots it, and then the bird gets shot. Luffy falls all the way onto the ground, and he's like, "Why am I getting shot by a cannon?" As he falls to the ground, you see the orange hair girl running away, and like the guys are like, "Hey, she has the Grand Line map of the Grand Line. Come back here." And then Luffy lands right in front of them, and yeah, that's where the episode ends. So Nami, that is actually the name of chapter 8 in the manga.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so
Gotcha.
clearly the girl's name is Nami.
Uh-huh.
So that's why I mentioned Nami. what's crazy is that like in chapter 8 of the manga, like uh I can't remember that we actually find out her name is Nami in that chapter at all. Like she
Oh, they
doesn't say
just
it in
named
that
it that.
chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just named the chapter Nami, so yeah. Um, so yeah, that was this crazy thing. There is also one thing from the manga that's different from the anime. Like, so in the anime, we see in the opening scene, uh, the orange hair girl tricking these guys, and then in the end of the episode, we see Zoro and we basically see Zoro um, then finding these guys, and then like them getting on the ship and stuff. It actually doesn't go that way, since the flashback is actually chapter 1 in the manga. Chapter 8, so, and I'll get back to chapter 1 in a little bit, but like, so chapter 8, it's like, Luffy and Zoro, it's basically like they're lost in the sea. Well, not that they're lost, they're just kind of like they're just kind of like drifting around, and then and then kind of the same thing, like, Zoro's like, hey, you should know navigation skills, and then, they have all that conversation. Then, like, Luffy then spots the bird. So it's not like he lost his hat or anything. He's just like, hey, Luffy just kind of goes and jumps up to the bird because they're hungry and they want to eat it or something.
Okay, gotcha.
And and then yeah, Luffy gets stuck, and then they actually Zoro, as he's like rowing towards the direction where the bird is heading, we actually see those guys, and we actually see like the shipwrecked guys, and then he's like, grab on, I'm not going to stop for you guys, and they grabbed on, and like, it's basically same kind of dialogue. They're like, hey, stop this ship, we're going to have the ship. Zoro kind of is like, huh, and then he beats him up, and then he's like, all right, you guys made me lose my friend, just keep sailing that way. And then they said, sorry, we so the opening scene of the anime is actually in the manga, it's shown as a flashback to when Nami actually like uh tricks them, and then like uses the weather to kind of like destroy their boat and make them
Oh, got it.
shipwrecked. So, but like I guess the name of the chapter, why the name of the chapter is Nami, is because this is actually the first time we actually see Nami.
Oh, yeah.
Um, yeah, in the story. Although, so this is the first time we actually see Nami in the actual story. Now, in chapter 1 of Romance Dawn, we do see Luffy and like Nami and Shanks's crew. Like, so it's like we see this girl in the cover, but like we don't know who she is. I mean,
Hmm.
obviously, I kind of know who she is because I do all this, but like, it's like we don't know who she is. We just see Luffy and Shanks's crew and stuff, and then 8 chapters later, we find out, okay, there's this girl named Nami, or yeah, this girl, and then her name is Nami. And then okay, so there are some censorship things between the anime and the manga. So, oh, and I also want to put in one slight difference between the dub and the subbed. So one of the censorship things between the anime and the manga is like in the and this is in the flashback. In the anime, we see one of Shanks's crew members say, "Hey, the captain is just watching out for you because it's dangerous out there." In the manga, he actually says, there's a lot more dangerous things to pirating, like pillaging and um, taking hostages and stuff. So it's a lot more dangerous and not fit for kids or something. So that was one of the censorship things. And another censorship thing that we saw is when that one guy from Shanks's crew goes to beat the mountain bandits. In the opening scene of the fight, he actually takes out his cigarette and like puts it out on the head, or in between the eyes of one of the mountain bandits, and knocks him out. And then he goes ahead and beats the rest of them up, just using like action scenes and stuff.
Hmm.
So yeah, those were some censorship things. I guess like they didn't want to add. And in the manga, in Romance Dawn, Uh, so it's not like Luffy eats the devil fruit out of like frustration. He's just eating the fruit just casually. Like you know, what happens is that Luffy gets angry at Shanks for not like sticking up for himself, and then Shanks grabs Luffy's hand, and then Luffy's walking away, and then his hand stretches, and that's actually
Oh.
how Shanks finds out. Uh, Shanks finds out that he ate something, and then one of Shanks's crew member, the really circular fat guy who shot
Hmm.
the guy, he shows Luffy the picture of the fruit. He's like, "Hey Luffy, did you eat something that looks like this?" And then he's like, "Yeah, I ate it for dessert. It didn't taste that great." And then Shanks is like, "Hey, that's a devil fruit. Yeah, you're not gonna be able to ever swim." There is also one slight difference between the manga and the anime. So in the anime, they say that Luffy's like a great swimmer and stuff. In the anime, they actually call him the anchor because he's not that good a swimmer or stuff. So that was one thing. There's like a slight difference there. Um, Between the dubbed and the subbed, there's this one character. In his forehead, you see Yasop written on it. So in the dubbed, he says, "I have kids older than you." In the anime, he actually says, "I have kids who are about your age."
Oh.
It's also the same thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And this is actually very relevant for later on. But yeah, so those were some of the differences that I kind of saw. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Interesting. So it seemed like, but in the manga, do you see, like when they're on the ship, do you see, or do you see Zolo beat up the pirates, or it just cuts to the next scene where they're beat up?
Basically cuts to the next scene where they're beat
Oh,
up.
I just thought it was weird
Yeah.
how like you wouldn't see them in either one of them getting beat up. Like the way it was cut, at least in the Four Kids,
Mhm.
it just seemed like they had cut it out like altogether.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I think like early on they were still kind of like trying to even like the original like Japanese anime too. I think they were trying to like curb it towards a kids thing, but I guess it's just not possible with like the content that was kind of coming out. I think it's like
Yeah,
yeah, I think it just wasn't possible. I think eventually they saw that this is gonna because it's gonna start conflicting with like the story. I think they tried to keep it somewhat kid friendly early on, sort of. Um, but it was just impossible.
yeah. Okay, well, that was interesting. There was a lot going on in this episode too. I thought the last episode three was kind of slow, but this one was just full of stuff. r- I was writing things down like constantly for the summary and pausing and going back, and yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah, there is a lot that happens this episode, especially introducing officially introducing the new character because this is the first time we actually see like Luffy and Nami seem like they're about to interact, kind of.
Hmm.
Uh, Actually, in the manga, he actually interacts with her a little more, but we see that more in the next episode, not this episode. Um, but yeah, yeah, I guess that's this episode.
Yep,
Yeah,
I
I mean,
guess we will be back next week with episode five.
yeah, I feel like I have like a few more things to say, but I just
Oh,
completely
go ahead
blank
if you
blank
want to
right
say
now.
something.
Oh, no, I mean, yeah, I just can't remember what it was, but yeah, I mean, it was a pretty eventful episode. It was really full. Yeah, a lot happened. There was like a lot of changes. I honestly feel like the scene where the scene where one of Shanks's crew members the manga scene where one of Shanks's crew members shows Luffy the fruit, and he's like, "Hey, did you eat this?" Honestly, that scene in the manga, it's just like a hilarious scene. I thought it would have been very funny if like they showed this in the anime. I thought like, that might have been
Yeah,
something that was very kind of like kid
it's,
friendly.
I guess it's also weird too because like it's different because like in the anime, right, when he eats it, like you tell that it's kind of like right away he's like, "Did you eat the fruit?" And then you can tell that he is, I don't know. I guess it is the same really, because he doesn't really notice until after he asks him if he's eaten that fruit.
Yeah, and one other thing I forgot to mention was that so in the manga, the Higama, the mountain bandit, he actually originally, he sees that Luffy's kind of this funny rubbery kid who like stretches out and stuff, and he so originally the mountain bandit guy in the manga wanted to sell Luffy off as something, but Luffy keeps insulting him, so then Higama's like, okay, maybe I'll just kill you instead.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah. It was a pretty full episode. I think like I was on the Discord with some other like One Piece fans or something, and I was like wondering why they didn't just like show that. And people were kind of thinking that if they showed Romance Dawn first and then kind of did that, it would have like made it look like Shanks was the main character, whereas Luffy is the main character, obviously.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, there is some additional stuff that happened in Romance Dawn that I forgot to say. So yeah, basically once Shanks' crew leaves, they it kind of goes to 10 years later, which is like where the episode is now,
Mm.
and then Luffy's like going out to sea, and he spots the sea monster. So this is in the manga. This wasn't shown in the anime, but like yeah, they switched to 10 years later where Luffy's about to set off into the sea, and then he sees the sea monster, and then Luffy's like, "Hey, I prepared an attack that I've been perfecting for the last 10 years," and he hits a gum gum pistol, and it his hand stretches out and then like just smack punches the sea monster, and then it gets knocked out. And then yeah, that was pretty much the end of chapter one.
Interesting. So we never see that in the anime?
Yeah, we don't really see that in the anime, and we will. Yeah, we'll never see it to the extent of where Four Kids ends. So yeah,
Got it.
yeah. Yeah, it was a pretty chapter one doing this. It was like yeah, chapter one's a pretty good chapter. And this is like I know this episode is filled with a lot. It's like but chapter 8 isn't really too content loaded.
Mhm.
But chapter 1 is, and so it was like this weird mixture between the two. But I think next episode and next chapters I think they're pretty on par. Because the one big Zoro flashback isn't gonna happen for a while, so yeah, we're good. And then I'll have to like go back to figure out which chapter that flashback is in because it's already been like yeah.
Oh wow.
But yeah. I'll tell you about it when we get to it.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah,
Thanks
man.
for watching, everyone, or listening. And we will be back next week.
Yep, cool.
Alrighty.